Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Okay, let's get you all caught up. First off, thank you for your patience during the downtime, and I hope your holidays are going well so far. On the advertising front, I've learned a good deal, including that there are standard rates for advertising based on the number of downloads, 3 generally accepted time slots, and that we would need a brief ad at the beginning and end of the show as well as a longer one in the middle of each episode, in order to achieve financial stability for the podcast, given our current viewership numbers. In layman's terms, that means covering my living expenses so I can do the podcast without bleeding money. From there, hopefully we can grow the audience and we can cut back on the ads a bit, and or I might actually be able to start rebuilding my savings, which would be nice since life tends to throw unexpected expenses at us. So I know different people have different levels of tolerance for advertising, which is why it wasn't the first solution I turned to. I've tried applying for a position with Humanity Forward and having them sponsor the podcast, but heard nothing back. We've got the Patreon going, which is super awesome, but only covers about 1/7 of my very modest living expenses right now. What money I have left is doing what it can in the stock market, and Tesla has been very generous so far, though my investing prowess leaves much to be desired. And other options have been explored as well. In short, at the moment, the option is adopting a minute or so of ads per episode, or ending the podcast and looking for work that pays. I still think there's value to the podcast, and I assume that you do as well, else you wouldn't be listening. So presumably, we all want it to continue. As such, I'm hoping that we can all adapt to this minor change. I do not have ad clients lined up at the moment, though I have reached out to some who might be appropriate. I will be directly contacting a few who have products and services that I respect and which I think are pertinent to our content matter and audience. I can promise you that I will not promote anything that I do not personally believe to be a public good, and I will do my due diligence in researching them. I'll also be doing my best to make them a fun addition rather than just a chore. At the moment, I'm interested in companies like Audible, ExpressVPN, maybe some Tesla-related stuff, automation products. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it. If you have any ideas for brands you think would be good candidates for the show, please let me know via the contacts in the podcast description. Also, if you want to express any particular thoughts on the advertising venture or have alternative funding ideas, or, just want to chat about whatever, I'm open to suggestion and we're all part of this community. I welcome your feedback. With that said, we'd better get on to the news. Oh wait, one more thing. I'll be doing my weekly chores Sunday instead of Saturday, so I will be with you tomorrow and off on Sunday instead. Just FYI. Shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park and Shay Meehan, as well as all our other patrons. Your commitment to this endeavor stokes my own. Alright, so we finally have some good news on the election front. The General Services Administration on Monday finally acknowledged Biden as the apparent winner of the election, allowing his team to access federal transition funds, contact federal agencies to plan staffing, and generally begin the logistics of the transition. Trump grudgingly acknowledged the development by tweet, attempting to take credit for the decision, but again repeated that he was not conceding. That would be devastating to the bilking of his supporters for money that he says is going to legal attempts to keep him in power, when donations under $8,000 are actually going to a general-purpose super PAC that is paying off his personal debts. Biden's transition team has also released some more of his cabinet appointments, specifically national security and foreign policy positions. Antony Blinken will be the Secretary of State. Alejandro Mayorkas will be the Secretary of Homeland Security. Avril Haines will be Director of National Intelligence. Linda Thomas Greenfield will be the Ambassador to the UN. Jake Sullivan will be National Advisor, and John Kerry will be the Envoy for Climate Change. I'm not familiar with any of them aside from Kerry, but they are all seasoned professionals and none of them are family members of Biden or white-collar criminals, so a step up. Some of the notable comments from Biden in introducing them were as follows. Quote, "They are ready to lead the world, not retreat from it, ready to confront our adversaries and not reject our allies. They embody my core beliefs that America is strongest when it works with its allies. They will tell me what I need to know, not what I want to know." End quote. On the election front, an all-Republican appointed panel of appeals court judges threw out, with prejudice, yet another attempt by Trump and his conspirators to undermine the election, this time in Pennsylvania. The appeal had been an attempt to overturn the certification of votes in the state and did briefly stall proceedings, but the court quickly rejected the case as all the rest for lack of evidence. The court rebuked Trump for attempting to subvert the voters through legal malpractice in saying, quote, "Calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. Ballots, not briefs, decide elections." End quote. It's a great relief to see that the judicial branch, at least, still retains some honor and integrity. Trump has, of course, promised to take the case to the Supreme Court, where he expects his appointees to serve him instead of justice, but it is highly unlikely that SCOTUS would take on a case with so little merit. Speaking of Trump tantrums, he threw another one, this time aimed at Twitter, after photos of him sitting at a small desk circulated around the internet alongside the hashtag #DiaperDawn. Trump wasted no time in legitimizing the phrase by throwing a fit about it, spinning off a whole new conspiracy theory and saying, quote, "Twitter is sending out totally false trends that have absolutely nothing to do with what is really trending in the world. They make it up, and only negative stuff." End quote. So expect to see that BS become the newest fad among Trumpers. He also reiterated his whining about Section 230. The greatest embarrassment, of course, lies with America for having elected a man-child as president. On a fun note, Trump's recount in Milwaukee has concluded, and the result was Biden increasing his lead by 132 votes. Gotta admit, that made me laugh. Keep it coming. Jack Sargent and Lydia Godden wrote a new article outlining how UBI would help people, particularly women, escape abusive relationships by granting financial independence, breaking the common dependence on their abuser. Old hat, of course, to those of us who follow UBI closely, but never hurts to have another voice reinforcing. A stark reality in India is shaping up as another cause for UBI. Climate change is making large swaths of the country simply too hot for exterior labor. UBI would be instrumental in assisting the inevitable economic transition in work, as money is the ultimate shapeshifter to fit any need. And 127 U.S. economists from all across the country have endorsed UBI in a joint letter. Organized by the Economic Security Project, they hail from Ivy Leagues to humble universities and include Obama's former economic advisor, Jason Furman, and Alan Blinder, a former Federal Reserve Board vice chairman. The letter argues for how recurring monthly stimulus payments would help strengthen the economy, save people, mitigate the pandemic, and shorten the recession. They also cite an Urban Institute analysis that suggests sending 2 more rounds of checks could keep 14 million people out of poverty. Very reminiscent of the 1,000 economists that endorsed Nixon's UBI-like plan back in the 60s. Though clearly, we need to get that number up a little more. This comes just before Disney announced that they will be laying off 35,000 workers over the next half year. The Economic Security Project has also put together some bipartisan arguments for UBI, some taken directly from the Economist letter. It's concise and varied, a good resource to refer people to. Scott shared that the French National Assembly passed a resolution to hold a public debate on a UBI mechanism that they call the citizen base. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to turn up more details on it. If any of you find more details, I'd be happy to share them. But certainly sounds like progress. Blair Walsingham is still running her small promotional UBI pilot in Tennessee and taking donations to keep it going. If you're looking to donate to a UBI project, getting more support in rural states like that might be the best investment. If we want to get UBI passed, it will be vitally important to keep it a nonpartisan issue. Alongside a celebratory comment about his book, The War on Normal People, hitting 100,000 copies sold, Yang also announced that he is working on a new book. No, it won't be out in time for Christmas, but something to look forward to nonetheless. Income Movement's Holiday Walk for UBI has begun, and over 250,000 steps have already been collected. Download the WAD app and add yours today. Humanity Forward's CARES branch is holding a fundraiser giveaway event. Every donation to Humanity Forward using the link below up until Sunday will give you a chance to win the iconic gold math hat. Be the envy of all your Yang Gang friends. And finally, Yang and Humanity Forward hosted an event to thank all the incredible volunteers that have donated their time to moving humanity forward. You can view the video of the event below, along with a number of shoutouts from Humanity Forward to their top volunteers. I really love that they're doing this, and I hope that it becomes a regular thing. These people deserve recognition at the very least, and it keeps spirits up to know that their work is appreciated and celebrated. Drop them a thank you in the comments. I hope some of our own Yang Daily listeners are in there too. This is what it's all about. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the UBI Abuse Prevention article, the UBI Economist letter, and the bipartisan arguments. Share Blair's UBI pilot, the Holiday UBI Walk, and the French UBI resolution. Join in the hat giveaway. Thank our hero volunteers. Don't forget to put in your half hour a day of phone banking or text banking to support the efforts in Georgia. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way. And don't forget to Yang Daily.